this morning. We are going to be talking about in the enhanced module, and we're going to be demonstrating all of the services and benefits that are within that. Those of you who have done the ACA reporting already have the enhanced module, and these tools are automatically included at no additional charge. For those of you who do not have the ACA reporting piece, the enhanced module is something that is a separate add-on. We charge $250 per year, but that gives you global access to all of these tools. Our speaker today talking about the Training360 module is Frank Cogliano with HR360. And so we basically have two different systems that we're using here. The onboarding and time off tracking are part of Benefit Compass, and the Training360 is a separate tool that is part of HR360. So Frank, I hope that you can hear me, and you might want to introduce yourself a little bit. Are you there?
Yeah, and thanks.
Great.
Yep. Can you hear me, Deb?
We can.
So, yeah, perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Frank Cogliano. I'm from HR360. In partnership with Spectra, we are going to do a presentation of Training360 and show you how the system works. What we'll see here is once you log into HR360, just like you normally would right now, but there's a little difference. You'll see the LMS button at the very top of the screen. And LMS stands for Learning Management System as well, so we'll click on that one. Once we do so, it's going to bring you to a dashboard. And I'm going to bring you through the process of what you would need to do to add employees to the system. I'm also then going to show you what the final piece of the product looks like for your employees at the end of this. So what we'll see first is in the dashboard on the left-hand side, we can see Add Employees here. We're going to click on that. Now we're going to have two options here. We're going to have the ability to download an Excel file right here, fill it out with all our employee information, and then upload them into the system. You can also add one employee at a time, which I'm going to show you how to do today. So we'll click Get Started. Now, when we do so, we're going to be brought to the Add Employee page. We're going to create an email address. I'm going to make one up here. Say far@gmail.com. We'll say password, and we'll confirm the password. We'll say far. All right, so we'll have that there for us. Now, these yellow and red fields here are required. Everything else is extra. This is all the same information that you would be putting into the Excel file. So when you're looking at the Excel file, just remember to fill out these first pieces here for you. Now then what we'll do is click Next again. And this will bring us to where we are going to now select what courses we want to assign to this employee or the individual. Now, if you're doing the Excel file upload, this is going to allow you to assign the same course to all those employees at one time, really speeding up the process for you as well. What you'll see here is you'll see the two double arrows, which means you can move all the courses over to the right-hand side if you'd like to and assign everything. We'll move those back, but then you can also come in and select specific courses. I'm just selecting a few here to show you what it looks like. So you'll now see there are 8 courses that have been selected to my sample employee. We'll then click Next again. Once we click Next and the system's done processing, it's going to show us that our far@gmail.com employee has been added to the system successfully. We'll now click on the Manage LMS Access button in the right-hand corner. So what we'll do is see all of our employees that are now in the system. So you'll notice I have 107 employees in here right now. You'll be able to add another employee from the system right here. You can search for employees right here. You can see all results, different pages. You can expand this as well too, which I'm going to do. And a couple pieces I want to point out to you here. So my sample employee, what I want to do is show you the results button first. So we're going to click on this. When we do so, once it's done loading, you're going to see sample employee here. This would be any employee that you click on the results button for. we'll show you what courses are still pending and kind of what's been started out of those courses already and which ones haven't as well too. So you really get to see the kind of what's going on in that training for your employees. Then the completed button here is going to show you what courses have already been completed by that employee as well. All right. Now, one thing I do want to point out here as well too, in this wheel and downward arrow that you're going to see, if you click on that, it's going to allow you to email the employee directly from the system, but that would be from your own emailing system. It'll just pull up for you. You will also be able to copy an email access link as well too, which we're going to do. So I'm going to click copy here. My system's going to ask me to allow to copy that, and we'll now see that I've copied that access link. We're going to use this in a minute later on to show you what the system looks like for the employees, but I'm going to jump back to the dashboard, and I want to show you a couple other things first before we do so. What we'll see here is the courses. So we'll see courses, and when we click on that, it's going to show us a drop-down menu where we can select all the different entries that we want to see at this point in time. So we'll see I expanded it to 40. The reason is that we can see that we have 29 courses right now. We are adding courses over time as well. So you are going to see more and more courses out there that may fit your business needs specifically. One that I know Deb is very excited about is HIPAA training. That's coming out in the next few weeks. So you'll see more and more of those as well. Now, what you'll see in the courses page here is the ability for you to see the title as well as the preview button here. So if you want to watch a couple minutes of the course to see if you like it, if it's one you want to assign to your employees, you can do so here. But you'll see we cover an array of different topics, FMLA, hiring process, performance reviews, substance abuse. You'll see a lot of sexual harassment prevention. You will see some state-specific ones here. I'm in Connecticut myself. We do have our own requirement out here. You will also see diversity, and then also sexual harassment prevention for employees, but not state-specific. So if your state doesn't have a requirement there, this might be the video you want to watch or have your employees watch at that time. You will also notice we have a sexual harassment prevention for managers and supervisors, so definitely use this one as well. Now, as we scroll down, you're going to see some other videos. Now, a point that I do want to make as well too, a lot of these videos are anywhere from about 40 minutes to about 10 minutes long. You will see one here for California that's 120 minutes long, but average, you're really looking around 30 minutes for a course. Down below, what you'll see here are a lot of 10-minute courses, like distracted driving, employee handbooks, 5 must-dos for employee orientation, and many, many more. Now we'll scroll back up, and what I want to do is jump back to the dashboard for everyone. When we do so, we're going to see a button here right below courses that says log in to LMS. I'm going to show you what this looks like, and what this is really doing is logging us into the back end of the learning management system, where you can do a lot of different things like running reports. You can see certificates as well too, and I'll explain that more. So we'll see users here. Users are going to be all of your employees that are in the system. I'm going to scroll all the way down to my sample employee that I've created. You'll then see I can run a pending report for them. I can run a completed report. I can change passwords, activate, remove, or delete them. I can also email the user right from the system if needed. What I really want to point out to you is the completed report here. I personally feel this is really important because it gives you a way to view a certificate of completion. Now, just a quick point, you can always download any of these reports into an Excel file. So if you'd like to view your reports that way, definitely use the download button here. What you'll find is the certificate column and then type. If we scroll down to where it says course and view, this will allow us to come in and download that certificate of completion for that employee. It is going to take a second for it to just download, so please stay tuned for me. Just give me a minute. My internet has been running a little slow today. What we'll see is once this continues to download, is the certificate appear. So What we'll see here is the sample employee certificate of completion. Now, what you can do here is either keep it in the system just like it is now. You can either print it out or you could download it as well too and store it in another place if you'd like to as well. But you will receive the certificate of completion for any course that an employee passes within our system. All right, we're going to jump back to the dashboard again. You will also see Training Academy as well. We're going to skip over Manage Employees because that's the page where we saw the results button before. Training Academy, I just want to point out to you, if you ever need training, you can always sign up here for your own time. It is Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time as well. What you will see is also a video over training, and you'll hear my voice in that training once again. Now what we're going to do is log in as an employee. So we're going to open up a new page here. And what I want to point out to you is the employee view of the system. So this is the link that I had copied prior. You'll see once I paste it into a URL, it's going to bring up the email address and password for us automatically, because that is a unique link for that employee. So the beautiful thing about this in my eyes is that you're never going to have to reset passwords or email addresses or usernames because they don't need to remember it. All they need is that link, and then they can click login. Once they click login, they're going to see the training center in the top left-hand corner. You will then also see your classroom or their classroom, and you'll see your pending courses. So they can come in, they could start a new one, they could resume a course. They can also click completed to see their courses that they've already passed, and if they want to try again, they can. So we'll click on pending here, and I want to open up and resume a course for you, show you what it looks like. Once this is done loading for us, we're going to click start and then submit. I'm going to have to click resume again. And when this pulls up for us, what we're going to do is go into the system, and I'm going to show you what the beginning of a course actually looks like for us. It does just take about a second for it to pop up. All right, just give me 1 second. All right, and while we're waiting for this as well too, Deb, I wanted to know if there's any questions that have come in that I might be able to help with as well too. I apologize, everyone. It's just taking a second for it to load for me.
Okay. If you have a question, would you use the, where's the chat thing? Yeah. Let's see. If you go to the bottom of your screen, there is a chat button. If you'd like to click that and submit any questions that you might have. I don't know if any of you have looked at a learning management system in the past, but they can be incredibly expensive. And we want to make sure that, you know, this is offered to you, and it has 29 courses right now, but they are going to be adding more courses as we go along. So we did have a question come in. Can we upload our own training materials? Frank, do you want to address that?
Definitely, and thanks, Deb. And it's loaded now as well too, so we'll jump back in after answering this question. But yes, you personally don't have the ability to upload your own training courses that you've created, but we can do that for you. So if you do have one you want in the system, please just reach out to Deb and her team, and they'll work with us on our end to get that uploaded for you. So yes, we can definitely do that.
Great. We know that a lot of you are going to have industry-specific things that you need, you know, but the beauty of this is that you assign the courses to the employees. You don't have to be a live presentation in order to do that. So you assign the courses, you give them a time frame, and we had this at Altius when I was there, and it worked very, very well. So the great thing is I can do it in my own time. If I get interrupted, I can come back and resume it. And then you, as the HR person, can see who is in the middle of their courses, who is finished, and where you can send that email directly from that page that Frank was showing. You can say, hey, I'm seeing that you got a bunch of stuff that is still not done, and remind them that they need to go in and finish that. Okay, Frank, you can go ahead.
Definitely, and great points there. So what we're going to do is, this is the introductory page of the course that I had opened up. What we're going to then do is click next, and this is going to bring us to our first video of the system. What we'll see here is a video start to play for us. Now, our videos are a mixture of PowerPoint slides and professional actors and actresses throughout the course. You're not going to hear any sound right now because we're on a web presentation, but I promise you she is speaking and there is sound to that. But what we wanted to do and make sure that was happening with our courses, there's two types of people, learners out there. People who learn by listening and people who learn by reading. So you will also see PowerPoint slides throughout this to make sure that we're hitting both demographics of learners. So you'll see that pop up for us. Now, typically, your employees would have to watch this entire video before moving on. They would actually see a count at the top here. But since I've watched this already, I can move on to the next piece. Once I do that, it's going to bring us to a short PowerPoint, just giving us the terms and definitions that they want us to cover in this section. So this is diversity, and just one definition for us. Some of them will have multiple. We'll then click next again. Once we do so, we're going to be brought to the first quiz. Our quizzes can be a mixture of anywhere from 2 questions to 4 questions, and they will be a mixture of multiple choice, true, false, or fill in the blank. I'm going to click start here. This will bring us to our first one. Now I'm going to click select the correct answer here, grow, and we'll hit next. Now what we'll do is hit next again, and I'm going to show you what an incorrect answer looks like. All right, so we will see that it is incorrect here, but we do see the try again button. So all the learning management systems out there nowadays do allow you multiple chances to get a correct answer to the question. The reason is you want to make sure this isn't a frustrating process for employees. You want to make sure they get their training done and then can get back to work. So we'll click try again. We'll select a correct answer and we'll submit our answer as well. All right, now we do a final submission of that, and then what we do is just click next again, and that would move us on to the next piece of the course. But everyone, that really is the Training360 and learning management system, both for you as the employer and your employees. I'd love to answer any additional questions that came in, but I also want to say thank you, everyone, today for listening to me and seeing the system as well.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. If you'd stay on the line for a second, if you have any questions, go ahead and click that chat button at the bottom of your screen. Type those in, and we'll make sure that we get those to Frank. If you do not have the enhanced module already, please talk to your relationship manager, and she will make sure that that is enabled, and then we can make sure that you're set up with that. Is there anything else, you guys, that you wanted to add to that? We don't have any additional questions coming through. I know that you guys may have questions later. Feel free to send those to my email, deb.rosenhan@spectrabenefits.com, and we'll make sure that we get an answer back to you. Frank, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you taking time over your lunch hour to attend our webinar.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much. The next part of the presentation that we have for you today is going to be going over 2 additional pieces of the enhanced module. The first one is onboarding, which allows you to select tasks and set up an onboarding process in order so that your employees then can take care of the onboarding tasks, and you can see where they are at any point in time. So it will save you immensely, but we're going to go ahead and change to the right screen. Okay. Am I showing the right screen now? Mm-hmm. Okay, so all of you should be able to see this, the Spectra homepage. If you do not, please send me a message, but we want to make sure that we are showing the right screen for you. I'm going to turn the time over to Michael Kersey. He is our benefit admin technology specialist. He's going to be going through the onboarding and the time off tracking feature. And then at the end, I'm going to just take a few minutes and talk a little bit about the ACA progress and where we are with the new legislation, and just give you a little bit of tips on that. So, Michael?
Thanks, Deb. So we'll start off talking about the onboarding piece. If you can see the screen, send me a message saying you can. I just want to have that positive verification. But let's kind of get in here and go through this process. So the way I want to cover this today is for the onboarding. Thanks, Liz. Is that I want to show you some of the pre-built tasks that we have in the system that you can just kind of turn on for your employees. I'll show you what the employee will see. And then we'll kind of go through the options that you have for your onboarding tasks and all the different capabilities of the system there as far as what you can have the employees do. And then the onboarding piece will be some of the administration, how to send reminders and track employee progress. So I added an employee this morning. We'll go ahead and register them. So before I go through all these tasks, one thing I want to say is that there's 4 different categories of onboarding tasks. There's getting started, policies and procedures, safety and training, and orientation. So of those 4, the getting started section will be these tasks that we see at the very beginning. This employee is just barely getting into the system for the first time. They have to go through these before they can elect benefits, before they can do anything else in the system. And then any of the others they'll kind of refer back to, and I'll show you where they can get access to those tasks. So this task here is just a welcome message. If you want to have a message from your president, something like that, you can customize that text. The next one is them accepting that their electronic signature is legally binding, and then there's this button to actually sign, put in cursive and date stamp that as well. Next is an address, and again, these are all tasks that are pre-built. You can just turn on immediately. You can do all of them if you want, none of them. It's up to you. The I-9, it works pretty well. I kind of like how this works for you. So what it'll ask for is the resident status and then the kind of documents that the employee plans to bring to you. And that way, you'll know what to expect. Day one. Or as soon as you've entered this into the system, what documents the employee will bring in, and then you'll be able to mark at the very end once you've actually seen the documents and done your part of the process. You'll be able to mark that this task is complete. I'll kind of show you the HR completion part as well. So they can say if they're their document from list A or there are 2 from lists B and C. Next is the W-4 task. Again, they say their filing status, how many exemption or how many allowances they're gonna be entering onto that form, and then it can also populate onto a fillable PDF, and then that way you can keep that form on file. You can print it off if you want to have a physical copy, or it will be stored in the system, and I'll show you where in the employee profile that will be stored. And again, they'll be able to change their W-4 their W-4 deductions, things like that, throughout the year, and we can set up a feed so that you'll be notified when that happens. So that is an option for employees that want to do that. And then you can also have, employees enter an emergency contact and fill out the EEOC section as well. So those are all the getting started tasks. And then you'll notice at the top here is this green bar that says you have 2 required. So there's a couple others that they would have to do that they haven't finished yet. But before I dive into that, I want to show you where those documents are stored. So on the employee side, they'll be able to see their documents at any point. They click resources, all documents. There's some planned documents here as well, but any uploaded forms are at the very top. So if we go back out here, let's log out from the employee and sign in as the HR user. So if we pull up that employee, I want to show you the your view of the documents. If you search for the employee, go to documents. Again, the very top, the form is there for you to view, and you can download at any point. So the next piece I want to cover is the different options you have for tasks. So if we dive into one, if we act as if we're going to add a new task, this task field here will just be the title of it, and it'll be what will kind of display on the left-hand side. A description will just be a gray text box at the top of the page where you can say what you want the employee to do. For example, if you have them download a direct deposit form, you want them to re-upload it, and then mark an acknowledgement. You want to kind of spell that out. Tell them, all right, please download the form, fill out, scan in and upload, and then once you've done all this, mark an acknowledgement. Just kind of spell it out for employees if it can be a more complex thing, not just reading text in an electronic signature, but something more involved. You can choose who the task applies to. So, most commonly is you assign it to everyone, and then that will default to, when you add a new employee, that it will be checked that they have to do this, and you can take away from anybody. Manually assigned is kind of the opposite, where it'll be visible, but it's not automatically checked that they'd have to do it, and you can add it. And the times that I see that most commonly are for managers or supervisors, some of those employees that have some more requirements that they have to do, where you just want to assign, in certain instances. Again, or also you can do by some more advanced options, by class. If you have a manager class set up, department, or offices. So if you have, a San Francisco office that has different requirements as far as documents that you collect, you can have some of those tasks up specific to them. You have all those options. Again, those are classes that have been set up in the system previously. So if you don't have any departments set up in the system, we'd have to do that first before we can use these more dynamic options here. Moving on to these requirements. So what each of these does, I'll kind of explain to you. This requires employees' acknowledgement. This will just ask that the employer, just check a box, and then it'll kind of populate, I have acknowledged this form on this date. And the next one is requires employee to upload a document. This will just ask that they actually, upload to the site. We're getting a little bit of feedback. Let me see if everybody's muted. All right. Sorry about that. So uploading a document here. So again, a direct deposit form, or if you have any other things that they need to kind of fill out by hand and upload into the system, this is where you'd use that. It kind of depends on your office. If everybody's, at a cubicle, have a computer, that might be a nice, easy solution. If you have people kind of out in the field, that might be a little bit more difficult. But there's that option there if you have some of those forms that they need to actually physically fill out. That can't be just uploaded into the system. We want to get you as paperless as possible, but some of those forms can't just be transposed into the system that we have. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're considering how to use this system to the best of your ability. The next item here is requires the employee to electronically sign. Functionally, it's the same as the acknowledgement, but again, at the very beginning, you'd want to have them have that task that they'll say they acknowledge that their electronic signature is legally binding.
I just want to interject here. Those of you who have done documents with us have received information regarding electronic distribution of notices and getting the employee to agree to that. When you use the onboarding tool, electronic signature consent is automatically part of it. So it would eliminate a task that you might have to do manually as far as getting that acceptance. So this makes it a little bit easier.
Thank you, Deb. And then the final option here is this requires HR acknowledgement, and this is, so all these other options are employees have to do an action. This last one is requires HR acknowledgement. So this is something that, for those forms that they have to fill out and upload, you probably want to include this as well. So that way you can see that they filled it out completely, you have all the information you need, and then you can mark it complete. So then you're still tracking until you've made that acknowledgement. So direct deposit forms, making sure they actually have their banking institution and routing number, all the information on there before you actually say it's actually done. And then the next section here, what should the employee do? It's a little bit similar to these requirements up here, but it's kind of saying what you're putting into the system. So, review a document that will upload. That's most commonly used for your employee handbook. Maybe just upload that, require an electronic signature, agreeing to that employee handbook. You can have them review a web page. So if you want to have them go out and take a quiz, this is where, we talked about Training360 so far, and it's out on a different site through HR360. If you want them to kind of go through that LMS system, you can link that task here in this onboarding. So one thing to keep in mind, just more in general, how this onboarding is going to relate to Training360 is that the onboarding tasks you have in here are going to be more collecting documents, collecting signatures, things like that, some of the administration stuff. And then the LMS is kind of a separate system, a little bit of a separate process, where I would suggest using this review web pages, linking out to that if you're going to use both systems. If you want to have employees view a video within Benefit Compass within the system, you can embed a YouTube or Vimeo video in the system. If you want them to review custom text, say you have a confidentiality agreement, you can just upload that text directly into the site and just have that directly in there instead of having a separate document, just to make it quicker and cleaner. You can also have the employee upload a file, make that a requirement there. Although I don't see that used very often. Usually you just use this requirement up here instead. So those are all of the different options. You can add tasks to any of these 4 categories. If you want to add to this getting started and have them do that before they can do anything else, before they can collect benefits or look at their documents or anything else like that, you can add tasks into this section, into this category as well. And then you can sort out to these other categories as you feel is appropriate. The last piece I want to talk about for the onboarding is some of the administration pieces, some tools you have to track progress and send reminders to employees. So if you back out to this dashboard here, you can see, you can go to this list of incomplete tasks. If you have any employees that have completed, say their I-9, or any other tasks they have that they need that you need to acknowledge before that can be marked complete. Those that the employees have done and are just waiting on you will be sitting here. If you click on this will take you to a link where you can send out a bulk reminder to everybody. So anybody that has not completed any of these sections of tasks, you can send a reminder to, just a quick, hey, please go into Benefit Compass and complete your required tasks. You can say the time frame. So if you're, adding for current employees that are already in the system, that aren't new hires, kind of going back and having them go through the system, the day you assign those tasks, it won't automatically send an email notification. You'll have to do that manually after you assign the tasks, and you want to say not done since today. But just ongoing reminders, you'll use this, yesterday, last week, last month, for those people that you need to follow up on and haven't gotten into the system. You can also look at this list to see all the outstanding tasks that have not been completed across all employees and all different task items. And a similar report is this task report, where you can filter and see by the task who's been assigned the task, when it was done, or when it was assigned, was performed by the employee. If an HR person and admin user dismissed it, when it was completed, and who completed it. So you can complete tasks on behalf of employees when that's appropriate, and you'll be able to see who actually completed the task here. So that way you can track who finished it. And you can also download this to Excel if you want to do more filtering to just people that were, just tasks that were completed by HR people, if you want to track that.
Talk about email addresses. I know critical there. You can see there's some missing there.
Yeah. So yeah, Deb was just mentioning to me, reminding me of some of the administration pieces as far as how important it is to have an email address in the system. If we want to send reminders, obviously we have to have that. It's just working through email that's in the system, and primary email that we have in the employee's profile. And that's something you can add, for new hires. I can show you how to do that for current employees, how to add that. So, when we're sending this bulk reminder email and we're saying send it to everybody, if there's not email in the system, they're not actually going to get the email. Another thing to point out is if you don't want to send an email to everybody, you just have one specific employee, or maybe just a couple that you're going to send individually. You can search for those employees. Let me search for one that actually has an email on file. This new hire that we just entered here. We can send a reminder to that specific employee. So that way you're not just blasting to everybody and having a really generic message. If you want to have something specific to the employee, you can do that. And also when you search for this employee and pull them up, you can see their specific tasks, what's been assigned to them, when it's been completed. And you have these different actions. You can mark completed on behalf of the employee, dismiss, kind of take it away as if they never had to do it. You can also add notes. So that way, if you want to do that as far as tracking, say, I made this attempt this day, and this day, and this day, and they never completed it, you can have that on hand and have that documented here. But also if you send an email to an employee, and let me just send one real quick here. If you search for the employee out here, just their profile in general, if you go to their timeline, that reminder email will be kept here, and this is the actual subject line and body of the email that you sent out. So any of those reminders that you send out to people will be tracked in the system automatically. So I think that's a really nice feature there in the system. And at the very end of this presentation, I'll show you I'll add a new hire for you guys and show you what it looks like when you're assigning a time off tracking package and the onboarding tasks. So this is it I have for the onboarding piece specifically. Before we move on to the time off tracking, are there any questions? Feel free to enter them into the chat, to the group chat that we have going. I'll give you a couple minutes to type any of those out. All right, nothing's coming through. I'll take that to mean that you all understand completely, that you won't need my help at all when you set this up, that this will just be a smooth sailing process.
Actually, the setup will be a personal training with Michael, and he'll work with you on your individual tasks to make sure that everything is included. So don't feel like you have to do this on your own. We certainly want to be the resource for that and make it as painless as possible. So it will be a collaborative effort with you and Michael to make sure that we've got everything captured and it's functioning well.
Yeah, and when you want to get that set up, reach out to your relationship manager, and they'll schedule something between us so that we can get it set up for your group specifically. And it's really great. You can add a demo employee and use them to test the onboarding process. And that's where I always like to jump in and add my own demo employee and go through the tasks that you have set up and just give any feedback on what you've done. And then that way we can see exactly what the employee will see and kind of test the system and how we want to track and what requirements we want to have of employees before we actually roll it out to everybody. So if you want to get that set up, reach out to your relationship manager and they'll get the ball rolling on that. So let's go ahead and move on to the time off tracking. So that's this PTO tab here, pay time off. So on this one, I actually want to start again with the employee side of things. So if we pull up an employee, our new hire here, go to their employee homepage. So this is their view of the system. Even though we're signed in as the HR user, we can still see that. If we go to this time off option here, the employee, when they go into the system, they'll be able to see, the different policies that apply to them. The policy total for the policy year, what's been accrued so far, how much has been taken, the current balance, and then the remainder for the policy year. And if they have any upcoming time off requests, or the history of the time off that they've taken, those will all be listed here. And then I just kind of want to show you what it looks like to request time off. It's a pretty easy, intuitive process. They just select the leave type. With this group, one thing to know is they have just two buckets here of one of sick time, one of all of vacation, personal, and PTO. So now when they're selecting leave type, that vacation, personal, PTO all rolls into the same bucket, all same bucket of hours. So that's not as important for you as an administration.
Help you create those buckets.
Yeah, and we'll go through how to create those different buckets and the settings you can have on those in a minute. So if we select just the PTO one, we can say the date. If it's multiple days, it'll default to a full day, 8 hours each day. And one thing to keep in mind is that the system assumes that a full day is always 8 hours. If you have people that work longer hours, 10, 12, or if a full day is 7.5 or something like that, the system will default a full day to 8 hours. So there'll have to be some manual adjustments. As for the handout that Taylor sent over, the last section for the time off tracking, the biggest piece of that is devoted to the system capabilities and limitations. And I want to highlight some of those throughout this presentation. But the system is definitely a step up from having just post-its on the computer monitor. It's a little more polished than that. But there are certainly limitations to the system that the intent was to fit 90% of clients, but there are still those 10% of situations where the system doesn't fit as well. So kind of keep that in mind as we're going through this presentation. How does this fit your current PTO policy for your employees? And will the system actually work with that? So yeah, one of those limitations is how many hours are in a day. Another one that's related closely is the system will not allow employees to take time off on the weekends, so Saturday or Sunday. Those aren't eligible days. One thing that's coming up in the system, an update that is coming out soon, I would expect in the next few months. We don't have control of that process, but they do plan on enhancing and being able to say, allow different, not just say 8 hours is a full day, but allow you to determine that process. And in my mind, it's very similar. Days of the week is kind of the same issue as far as having the group be able to have control of what what a day is, what a work day is. So I'm not sure if that Saturday, Sunday issue will be resolved with the same update, but we'll keep you posted when that actually gets released by Employee Navigator, who writes the software. So, when the employee makes a request, they can say the date. If they have a partial day, they can do that as well. They can, do to the nearest hundredth, and they can enter a reason as well. And another limitation to keep in mind, the system does do a lot of nice things, but I just want to make you aware of some limitations. So I don't want to just be negative, but another limitation is that the system doesn't say what time of day. So is this a morning or afternoon? You can have the employee put in the reason field the time of day. And have that on hand, and in the dashboard, you'll be able to see the reason the employee put in. But that's not something that's required of the employee. So that's something where there's a limitation that you can kind of train your employees to put in that information and have that available to you. But that's not something that's the system requires. So we submit that, and then the manager will be notified immediately to either approve or deny. Within that, they'll get a link in their email, and it'll take them to a screen that has 2 boxes, agree and approve or red deny, and they can do that from there. If they want to look at the specific time that was the date that was requested and the amount of time, they'll have to log into Benefit Compass to do that. So I think if we go to Mary Contrary, she is this employee's manager. You'll notice before there was just a manage my time off, and this is her specific PTO item. But then since she's a manager, she has this additional manage my team option. So she can see this request here. She can approve or deny it. She can refer to her calendar and see this request is made for the 28th. It's color coded to help you keep track. So she can approve that there. And then the managers can also see everybody that's on their team, their email, if there's any warnings, things like that. So let's go to the settings and setting up a package or policy here in the system. One thing to keep in mind is that you can have multiple packages within a company. So if you have different offerings to different groups of employees, the system supports that. So there's the packages, the high level. All right, this contains everything. Each package is made up of different policies, which are different buckets of hours, and then each policy is made up of different leave types. So there's that hierarchy of organization there where leave types comprise the policy and the policies comprise the package, so which can be a little bit confusing. But let's dive into a specific policy, and hopefully that'll clarify some questions anybody might have. So if we dive into a policy here, what you do is you say what leave types you want to include within that policy, which is a specific bucket of hours. You can have multiple types in there. If you want to have a custom leave type, something that's not listed here in these automatic ones, you can add that as well. Then you'll say how often hours are accrued, or how hours are made available, I should say. Periodic accrual is the most common. You can do that annually, so it's kind of all front loaded, or you can have that accrue per pay period. Those are the 2 most common that we see. Then there's other options as well. You can also have hours be made available per manual assignment. This is something that usually makes sense for things like jury duty or bereavement, where you're not giving everybody a set number of hours every year to use for those specific kinds of leave. But after the fact, once they actually have to, they've been called to jury duty, and you need to assign those hours out, you can do that after the fact with this manual assignment option. Then there's also unlimited hours. This is the way I've seen this used before is if you have people that work from home and you want to track what days are working from home, you can do that. So it's not paid time off. they're still working. We just want to track when those hours are being done at home versus in the office. So if we go back to periodic accrual, the next option here is the policy year start date. So what this option controls is when a rollover occurs. So if you don't have rollover, then this is not necessarily an option that makes a big difference. But if you do have rollover, when do you want that to happen? You can do a common date, which is most commonly January 1st, just a calendar year. But if you have an off-season time of year that you want to have that rollover occur, that's an option. So for our office, fourth quarter is really busy for us, and so we have a blackout period at the end of the year. So what we can do is have rollover occur in February, or November more likely, and then have that blackout period coincide with the beginning of the policy year. So people can't request time off at the beginning of the policy year, even though it's the end of the calendar year. And then the carryover would occur in November before that policy year rollover. Or if you want to have it happen throughout the year, each individual employee is happening differently, you can do it by employee hire date, which we don't see as often, but that is an option if that's what your policy is. The next option you have here is how many hours are accrued each year. So this is, there's a lot more options. We can do periodic accrual. If it's manual or unlimited, there's not as many options to do. But for when you have accruals, you say, all right, how many hours are accrued each year? And again, keep in mind that the system right now is assuming that you have 8 hours in the workday. So this is 10 days for this specific policy, for this vacation policy. If you allow employees to accrue more hours, after a certain number of years of service, you can have that option. You can add, any number there. After any number of years, system will automatically calculate what the total is. And the way that operates is that the system will look at the hire date that's in the system. So say they were hired, October of 2012. Starting October of this year, 2017, they'll start accruing at a higher rate to account for that higher total, 20 hours that's available with them in that policy year. So up until that point, they'll still have that lower accrual rate, but then starting with their hire date anniversary, it'll accrue at a higher rate. So it's a pretty slick process there. If you have a probationary period, the system can support that. You can say how long the probationary period is, 30, 90 days, whatever the case may be, and can say what that probationary period actually looks like. What does that mean for you? Are hours not accrued and not taken? Or maybe you allow hours to be accrued, but you can't take time off in that first 30 days. Any of those options are available here. If you have carryover, you can say how much you want allowed there. If you don't have any, you don't have to allow that in the system, and it'll just zero out at the end of the year. And then this last option here is restrictions. One thing to keep in mind is that the system will allow employees to use up to their policy total even at the very beginning of the policy year. So for example, say you allow 80 hours of vacation time, and an employee, and your policy start date is January 1st, so it's a calendar year policy. The system will allow the employee to request off 2 weeks of vacation in January, and it won't do anything to prevent that. If you want your employees to only take time off that they actually accrued to that point, then that's where your manager would have to look at that request and see if they've actually accrued that time before they approve it. So the system itself will not prevent that request, but if you have a policy that you only want people to take time off that they've accrued, that'll require some management training there. But then this restrictions you can say if you want employees to be able to go negative over the policy total. So say you have 80 hours, they request 3 weeks of vacation, will you allow them to do that extra week and make it up in the next policy year? Because that negative balance will carry over. That won't zero out, but they would be able to make it up the next year. We don't see that very often, but that is an option here in the system. And then you can add multiple policies. So we just have a vacation one right now. If we wanted to add one for bereavement and jury duty, things like that, that are going to be manual assignment, we can do that as well.
And those would happen as occurring.
Yeah, and then the reason we're doing manual assignment there is so that as that actually happens, you can go back and add that into the system, add those hours as PTO time. And if we want to have a third for, you know, working from home, you can add that there as well, do unlimited hours, and save through. So you can add as many buckets as you need for your policies that you offer. The next item here is this holiday calendar. So, you know, there's some pre-built federal holidays in the system. If you have Pioneer Day, you know, this group provides Pioneer Day as a paid day off for everybody. You can add those into the system. If it's a specific date, like Pioneer Day is, you can do that there. Or if it's day of the week, you can do that as well. If it falls on a weekend, you can tell the system what to do as far as, do you move to Monday, Friday, or the closest business day? So you can add some of these pre-built ones. You know, if none of them apply, you don't have to use any of them. If some of them do, you can do it on a one-by-one basis. And then assigning packages and managers. I'll show you again. I'll show you at the very end, adding a new hire, what that looks like with these enhanced module pieces, adding some of the items to those new hires. But as you're implementing this system, if you want to do that, you know, to assign a time off package, you can do it by today or start a policy year. We always say do start a policy year, so then the accruals will show in the system. It's a much cleaner process if you do that. So you can both assign, if you have, you know, different packages, say you have one for managers, one for full-time employees, you can do that to everybody or a specific class if you have that set up in the system. Or you can kind of select one by one, people that don't have a package yet, what package you want to assign. So pretty simple process there as you're implementing the system. And then assigning managers can be done in the same way. You select who the manager is, and you can say, all right, who is underneath them. Speaking of managers, actually, I wanted to point something out. As a manager or as an HR user, also, you'll be able to make time off requests on behalf of your employees. Let me show you the admin side of that. If we go to this PTO tab, we just search for an employee. We can record time off. So, you know, for example, if an employee's sick one day, they're not coming into the office, you know, you can enter that time off on behalf of them. And the employee will get an email notification that you've entered that into the system for them. So there's all that transparency there. You can also adjust balance if you do some comp time for employees. You give them 8 hours of additional time for that year. You can enter that into the system on a one-by-one basis. So now this employee has an extra 8 hours that they wouldn't normally have. So that can be a great incentive if you have certain things that you want employees to do, and that can be a reward that's pretty simple to enter into the system.
Is that how you also handle gifting?
Yeah, and if you have a policy of gifting hours from one employee to another, this is kind of how you do that process. There's not a clean way of just saying, all right, take it from one, give it to another. What you'd probably want to do is adjust balance down, down 4 hours, for example. For the one employee, and then go to the other and adjust the balance up for them. And these balance adjustments will be visible to the employees when they look at their PTO tab. So they'll be able to see the reason that you made an adjustment to their balance total. Great question, Deb. Thank you for bringing that up. So now let's go back to some of the administration pieces here. One thing you'll notice here is this graph that shows when hours have been taken. So if you have a calendar year policy, so it rolls over or employees lose hours, December 31st, you can kind of track this to see, all right, are people taking time off throughout the year, or is it really low? And then December will probably expect a spike as people want to use their PTO. And that way you can kind of encourage people to take time off, during the summer or during the fall, and not have just a rush of people, leaving the office in December. Any pending requests will be listed here, and the reason is always there and visible. You can see the employee and the manager for each of those requests. All the information is there at your hands. For payroll, this isn't integrated with any payroll vendor, but to pull a report, you can just do the payroll dates. Say we look at February, the first half for this company that has like a semi-monthly payroll cycle. You can see the request those days, and so you can kind of send that off to your payroll. All right, this person had 16 hours of PTO. This person had 16 and 7.25. That way you can just and you can download that to Excel as well. That's most of what I have prepared. We've gone. Oh yeah. Thank you, Deb, for reminding me. I wanted to show you when you add an employee what that looks like when you're assigning a package for new hires and assigning those onboarding tasks. So just like with any employee, add the social, add some personal information. Just a reminder, as you're rolling out these products, then this email section becomes much more important. So you can send reminders to your employees. So as a reminder, the name, gender, and date of birth are all required, and state of residence as well. Email is not necessarily required, but if you want to make that a required field, as a reminder to yourself, for example, we can do that. Just let us know, or contact your relationship manager if you want to roll out this module, and we can get all those things set up. And the employment information, oops. And so this is where you assign the PTO package here. So you say which package, and then who their manager is. You start typing the name, and that's it. That's just an extra 2 seconds there to add that to the new hire flow. And you can add managers even if you're not using the PTO package. And then that way, if you're pulling an ad hoc report, you can filter by manager as well if you want to look at specific teams. And then the last piece is this onboarding. So for this one, all these tasks are assigned to everybody. Everyone is the option. But if we say, oh, well, we actually got the W-4, we actually have that in paper already, you can take that away. Or if some of these don't apply, you can take those away as well. And you can send that email reminder to your employee. So we've moved really fast. We've covered a ton of information today, all on Training360, onboarding, time off tracking. Before Deb talks about some of the healthcare updates, the laws, are there any questions on Benefit Compass and the modules that we've talked about? I'll give you a little bit of time to type up a message. All right, nothing so far, so I'll turn the time back over to Deb for the last piece here.
Thanks, Michael. I just wanted to give you a little bit on the ACA update. We don't know tons, but we're going to show you what we've got so far. I'll just get us back to our home page here.
But the Trump administration has submitted the American Healthcare Act, so AHCA or ACA. But what this does is that they're going about this a little bit differently. They're going in stages. It does not repeal the law entirely because this went through Congress to become a law. It has to go through Congress to remove it. So what they're doing is submitting budget reconciliation bills because of the way that it impacts revenue and taxes. So to do this, all they really need is a simple majority in the Senate and the House in order to get this passed. There's been a lot of information in the news that they don't have that. A lot of conservative representatives and senators have come out and said, yes, they're not doing this and that type of thing. But I think we'll see this going forward. But I wanted to give you an idea of what it means so far with what they have proposed. The first thing that is most important, I think, is the fact that they want to repeal retroactively the individual and employer mandates back to January 1st, 2016. What this means is that the individual mandate is a requirement when we do our taxes that say, yes, I had coverage for the year. The employer mandate, for those of you who have more than 50 employees or on a self-funded plan, we just finished that process by March 2nd, so we're still a little raw from that one. What this means is, by retroactively to January 1, 2016, is that if you had to do reporting for the 2015 year, so last year, what that means is that if there was a penalty assessed, you're still going to be liable for that. They have not issued information to anyone saying that you owe a penalty from your employer mandate information. We expect those to start coming out probably first part of second quarter if there's any penalties being assessed or if they need additional information because of what they received. By retroactively repealing the 2016 employer mandate, everything that we just did, there would be no penalty. They have reduced the penalty to 0. So they didn't eliminate the process, but they took the penalty down to 0. So even if there were penalties that, or information that was wrong, that should be assessed for the 2016 plan year, you will not be responsible to pay a penalty for that. And that's what they've done going forward. Key consumer protections like the ACA's prohibition on pre-existing conditions, exclusions, and dependent coverage to age 26 still remain intact. And I'm going to go ahead and list those out for you. Some of the things that are not impacted, cost sharing limits on essential health benefits, those will stay the same. Plans can still not have a prohibition on lifetime or annual limits. You can't put those in place. Most of you have removed those. They have been removed for a few years, so they aren't going back. Requirements to cover pre-existing conditions is still there. Kids on your plan to age 26 is still there. Guaranteed availability and renewability, and the non-discrimination rules. Now, we've talked a little bit about that in the past. This non-discrimination clause that they're referring to is the one that says you have to offer coverage equally on the basis of race, nationality, disability, age, or sex. You can't discriminate in those purposes. It does not touch the fact that some of you may have different contribution rates for managers versus rank and file employees, that type of thing. That has never come out of healthcare reform. It was always still something to be done in the future. So that has still not been impacted. They've also kept the requirement to offer those essential health benefits in your plan. Those are those 10 services that you're required to do. However, ACA required that we had an actuarial equivalent that met at least 60% of the bronze plan. That has not, that will go away, so we won't have to have that actuarial piece in there. A couple of other things that they're going to be adding is that right now, the spread between a young person in their 20s to an older person in their 50s, the maximum spread is a 3-to-1 ratio. So the premium for the older person can't be more than 3 times the premium for the younger person. What they've done is increase that spread to 5-to-1. What that means is that rates could go up for your older employees. I don't anticipate them going down for your younger employees, but that 5-to-1 ratio is what we had before ACA came into play. So they would put that back. And then, well, one of the things that issuers, and this would be the carrier's prerogative, is that if someone goes without coverage for that 63 days and doesn't enroll in time, if they enroll mid-year, the carrier can assess a 30% penalty on their premium for the first 12 months. This was in place before. We didn't have many carriers enforcing it, and the limit at that point in time was 50%, not 30. So that is a big change. We did have a question come in that asked if we know if they're doing anything with the 30-hour per week rule. That has not yet been addressed. I have not seen that in any of the legislative briefs and information. Everybody has an opinion, and that is not one that's been addressed yet. Since Trump said that this is going to be coming out in phases and stages, I anticipate that they may address it or leave it alone. But that 40-hour work week has always been a sore spot with the ACA law, so we'll see what happens. Another thing that has not been addressed yet either is the FLSA overtime rule. That was put on hold at the very last second, and it's still there. We've not seen any action or movement on that one as well. Instead of the current subsidies for individual coverage through the marketplace, they would change that to more of a tax credit status. It would be portable, it could be monthly. The way a subsidy works is that if my premium is $500, but my income is such that I get a subsidy, it can basically take most or all of that premium, and so that I'm paying zero or a very small amount. A tax credit works kind of on the back end, where it's when I do my taxes, I'm going to get a tax credit for what I spent. And if the tax credit is more than what I spent on premium, I could actually make money on this deal. So how they're going to actually roll that out is unclear. It would only apply to non-group coverage, so it would be individual coverage, not group. And for those employees who go outside either what you offer or do not have coverage available through their employer. One of the things that we've heard a lot of talk about was HSA and making them more attractive. It can be a great program. Some employers and employees have been great to adopt them. Others are seeing a slower adoption rate on the HSAs. Some of the things that the new healthcare plan would offer, they want to increase the maximum HSA contribution. So the whole point is encouraging employees to put more money in their HSA. Also, it would allow both spouses to make catch-up contributions if they're over the age of 55 to the same HSA. The way it is currently, each of them have to have a separate account, and both of them have to be over 55 in order to take advantage of that catch-up contribution. This would allow both spouses to put more money into the HSA, just one HSA that they have, and do something cooperatively rather than individually. One of the things that would also help is once an employee establishes an HSA, if they had any costs the previous 60 days, they could then submit those costs to their new HSA account once it's established. Another thing is that the ACA that we currently have has forced us to eliminate over-the-counter drugs from HSA reimbursement. That would go back. And then just a moment on the FSA. One of the things we saw a couple of years ago is the government reduced that FSA down to $2,500 is the max that somebody could put into their plan. But if you know that you have a lot more healthcare expenses, it really hurts not to be able to put money into your FSA tax-free, because you know you're going to have those expenses later in the year. So anything that the ACA bill does is it would increase that rate. We don't know what the new limit would be. That has not come out yet, but they have talked about that. Now, in order to encourage people to leave their money in an HSA, there would be an increased tax on non-medical withdrawals. So if it's not a qualified medical expense, the tax rate on that is going to be a lot higher. Right now, that tax rate is, let's see, the ACA increased it to 20%. The new law would lower the rate to pre-ACA percentages for distributions after 2017. One of the things that the Cadillac tax has been postponed to 2018. This law would postpone it an additional 6 years to 2024. And so we'll see what happens. So rather than eliminate it, they've just postponed the implementation date on that. There would be an additional Medicare tax for the ACA increased the Medicare tax to 0.9 of wages compensation, an additional 0.9. That would go away. So we wouldn't be stuck with that additional Medicare tax. That's going to apply to mostly to high income individuals, but it would repeal that tax beginning in 2018. Other taxes that would be impacted would be those additional taxes, the HIT tax, which is the health insurance tax. There was also a new tax on medical devices. Those would be eliminated. So some of those would certainly be impacted by this new legislation. And I think that we're just going to have to wait and see what is happening, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea as to what's on the table. If you have questions about this, please send it over in the chat. We'll continue to update you when information comes across that is pertinent, but right now this is all up in the air, and we just need to know kind of what direction things are going. So I think that you can certainly expect HSAs to be a bigger deal with the new administration. And if you have an HSA or do not have an HSA and would like to implement one, please talk to your relationship manager and business advisor, because if there's going to be a lot of advantages to employees going forward, then it makes sense for you to have the vehicle in your plan that is going to allow employees to take advantage of that. I'm not seeing any questions come through. We're going to go ahead and end our webinar. I do appreciate that, and it was, it makes it nice for you to be able to attend remotely. This has been recorded, so you're going to be able to access it again if you would like to. But thank you so much. We appreciate all of you and your attendance. Thank you.